Alright, UFC on ABC 5, Ilia Topuria versus Josh Emmett just wrapped up, and what a main event, a dominant showing from Ilia Topuria. And this was a dangerous matchup for him because I feel like this is a guy that kind of leaves himself sometimes vulnerable in the pocket, and Josh Emmett does hit hard, and we saw in a few instances where Ilia Topuria did get rocked or did get a little shocked by some of the shots that Josh Emmett was throwing, especially in the beginning of the 5th round where it looked like that Josh Emmett actually really hurt Topuria. But overall, Topuria definitely had a better showing, arguably won all 5 rounds. I gave him the win for all 5 rounds, even getting a historical 50-42 scorecard, a 10-7 round in the fight. We're gonna have a talk about the main event and the implications and how I think Ilia Topuria would do against Volkanovski. What's up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. If you guys are new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, like, comment, and share. And yeah, today we're gonna be talking about Ilia Topuria. Let me know what you guys thought about his performance in the comment section below. I thought the whole card was pretty good, but I want to talk about this main event because the implications could be massive. Anyway, guys, enough boring you guys. Let's just get into this video. All right, Josh Emmett, Ilia Topuria took place last night, UFC on ABC 5, and there were talks about giving Ilia, Brian Ortega. And I had said when they announced the Josh Emmett matchup, I thought that this was a more dangerous matchup for Ilia Topuria because I think Brian Ortega's boxing sometimes is a little bit lacking. He's there to get hit. We saw with Volkanovski and Max Holloway, and yes, those are the best of the division. You still can't deny the guy does get hit a lot, and especially if you look at the way that Ilia Topuria fought last night, I think he probably would have beaten Brian Ortega. And what I liked about Ilia Topuria's performance is it was a lot less patient than I expected. A lot of the times, especially in the Bryce Mitchell fight, he was rushing. And granted, Bryce Mitchell isn't exactly the big power puncher that Josh Emmett is, so maybe Ilia just didn't feel a threat where Bryce Mitchell felt that you could just walk through him. However, with Josh Emmett, you can't just do that, and Ilia knew that. Ilia took his time outboxing Josh Emmett, using the jab, just landing great right hands, landing great left hook counters. And in the first round, it was a pretty close round. I gave it to Ilia, and then pretty much from the 2nd and 4th round, you just see a battering of Josh Emmett. I believe Josh was almost finished in that 2nd round, and was almost finished quite a few times. Even at the end of that 4th round, he was almost finished. And in the 5th round, early on in the round, Josh Emmett says, fuck it, I got nothing to lose. That's what his coaches told him. Great advice. He went out there just swinging as hard as he could, rocked Ilia Topuria, but Ilia Topuria, in my opinion, still won the round. He was able to get a takedown, get lots of control, and plus the stand-up wasn't exactly so one-sided in that round, so I had to give it to Ilia. Now, I had it like 50-45, 50-44. I know it's cool to say 50-42, but come on, that was not a 10-7 round. Ilia was dominant. I don't want to take away anything, but I think it's more realistic to give like 3 10-8 rounds than give a 10-7 round at any point. I mean, come on. None of the rounds where Max Holloway fought Calvin Kattar were 10-7 rounds, and I think that was more of a 10-7 round than any of these rounds were. But either way, I don't want to take anything away because Ilia was super dominant. And yes, you could say, hey, Yair was able to finish Josh Emmett. I still think that this is a pretty dominant performance from him and something that's super impressive, especially when you consider this is his first 5-round main event, perfectly paced himself. It's a big deal when you're moving 2 rounds because you're used to fighting these 3-rounders. You're used to expanding your energy throughout the first 3 rounds, and then when it comes to later rounds, you kind of forget. And I was worried about that at the end of round 3 because it did look like Ilia was slowing down, but Ilia picked it back up in the 4th round, and he's still undefeated now, officially in the top 5. I'd imagine maybe number 5, number 4. And obviously the big elephant in the room and the question that everybody is asking after this fight is what happens with Ilia Topuria next? Is he going to fight Volkanovski? Well, obviously, first of all, Volkanovski is going to be fighting Yair Rodriguez. You can't count Yair out because although the betting odds are huge, I really think that this is a really close fight. I don't even know who I'm picking yet because if anybody is going to be Volkanovski, it is going to be Yair. Yair has a really good style with the kicking. But imagine him leg kicking Volkanovski, keeping him at range. He's way taller, throwing lots of kicks at him, outscoring him that way. I think that one's going to be a close decision, or even a Yair knockout I could see as a possibility. I think it's either going to be a close decision or a Yair knockout. That's so far what I'm thinking. But either way, let's just assume Volkanovski wins that matchup, alright? How would a matchup between Ilia Topuria and Volkanovski go? Now, for this fight, I can imagine 2 possibilities. Now, they could do this in the Australia card that's happening in a couple months. That would be a really, really quick turnaround for Volkanovski, though. That would be literally exactly 2 months. So, is that possible? No, but Volkanovski is a guy that likes to be active. That is the only reason why I mentioned it. If this was another fighter, I would think it's ridiculous, but Volkanovski is the type of guy to want to do something like that and then fight in Abu Dhabi still. He'll fight all the time, but I think most likely what's going to happen is he's going to want to fight Islam Makhachev in Abu Dhabi. Now, of course, Oliveira made a huge statement against Beneil Dariush. Obviously, the whole featherweight situation is really up in the air as of right now, and I do want to see a Volkanovski rematch with Islam Makhachev, but maybe they tell Volkanovski, hey, you can hop on the Australia card. Islam fights in Abu Dhabi, new guys meet up later next year, which is kind of what they did last year. Maybe they do it in January, February again, but I think it's safe to say that Ilia Topuria is next, and he should be next. A lot of people saying he should fight Max Holloway, but the problem is if Max Holloway beats him, then what do we do then? Volkanovski has no contenders, and although I think on paper I do want to see an Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway matchup, I would really like to see who wins that fight because honestly, Ilia looked really good last night, so the possibilities for him are endless. But how do I see a Volkanovski versus Ilia Topuria matchup going. Honestly, I think that Volkanovski would beat him. Last night kind of solidified it to me. I could just imagine Volkanovski, you know, kicking those legs. So Ilia Topuria is very jab heavy. I don't think he's going to be able to take down Volkanovski because Ilia does have an underrated ground game. We saw with the Bryce Mitchell fight. Bryce Mitchell is a really good grappler, and he was just able to out-grapple him in those exchanges, and also really hurt him multiple times. So I don't think he's going to be able to out-grapple Volk. He might be able to outbox Volk, but I think at that point, Volk is going to be able to out-kick him in the legs. You know, Topuria did the same thing, but also Volkanovski is just a lot more faster and a lot more patient than Josh Emmett is. Josh Emmett wasn't really setting up any of his shots. While we know that Alexander Volkanovski is a guy that will use his jab, use his right hand, you know, be a lot more technical. He isn't going to throw long, loopy shots over and over again like Josh Emmett did. And there are holes in Ilia Topuria's game. Like, he is very good, but there's also holes. He does have a lot of defensive gaps. He leaves himself open a lot of the time, which is why Josh Emmett was able to catch him so many times. He definitely has a lot of things to fix, and he's arguably being rushed to the top, especially if his next fight is against Volkanovski. But we just have no other contenders at featherweight. Who else is Volkanovski going to fight? That would be interesting. But I'm down for the Ilia Topuria versus Volkanovski fight. I do think it might be rushing him a little bit, but I still wouldn't mind seeing that matchup. It makes sense. Ilya's undefeated. Volkanovski's been undefeated since God knows how long. Oh wait, I forgot he lost to Islam, but we all know that wasn't really a loss. That was a fucking really close fight. It didn't even register in my mind as a loss, but other than that, Islam loss hasn't lost at featherweight at least ever. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. I honestly do got Volkanovski in that matchup. I think he is going to struggle a lot more with Yair, just because styles make fights. That's just how it is. I would like to see Yair versus Ilia Topuria. That would also be a really good matchup. That's possible if Volkanovski rematches Islam Makhachev. Then that could be a fight in between that. I don't really want to see Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria because, like I said, what are you going to do with Holloway? I guess then what would you do with Yair? Also, I don't know. That's a tough fight. Honestly, I would love to see Yair versus Ilia as well at some point, but I think what they should probably do is have Volk versus Ilia, Charles versus Islam. Assuming Volkanovski and Islam win both fights, then I say that they rematch again and we see what happens. And another thing I want to point out is about Volkanovski. If Volkanovski gets past Yair Rodriguez and Ilia Topuria, I saw someone say this online that he is arguably top 3. Do I think he's necessarily top 3? No, but I definitely think he might surpass Jose Aldo. When you look at his resume, I mean, he beat Max Holloway twice. He's going to be taking on Yair Rodriguez, who did take Max Holloway to a close decision, finished Josh Emmett pretty easily. Ilia Topuria, I'm assuming obviously he beats these people, but Brian Ortega, the Korean zombie, this guy has a packed resume as a champion, killers on top of killers, and this is just a case where he's just a dominant champ. You know, these featherweights are really good, but he's so dominant, he's so good, and especially when you take into consideration what he did with Islam Makhachev, this guy is going to be up there if he continues on this path. He literally might surpass Jose Aldo, in my opinion, who I think is my number 5, so he would maybe be my top 5 greatest of all time if he actually does this. And I could see it happening. Honestly, all fights are very winnable for him. I honestly think I'd predict Volkanovski to beat Islam in a rematch, and I think I'd predict him to beat Ilia Topuria. I just don't know if he's going to beat Yair, and that's the big question for me. But in conclusion, Ilia looked really good last night, and I'm excited to see what he does next. I'm excited to see what his path is going to be going forward. I think he's going to fight Volkanovski next. It makes sense. Ilia said he's going to finish Volkanovski in round 1, which I don't think so. If you're not going to finish Josh Emmett in the first round, you're not going to finish Volkanovski in the first round. You never know. I guess a shot could happen, and maybe I'll be clipped for this, and people are going to look at me like I'm dumb, but I think Ilia Topuria is going to struggle with Volkanovski. I just think style-wise, it's a bad matchup for him, but we'll see. I'm excited for Ilia Topuria's future, and I'm excited for that fight. He's still undefeated. Big prospect in the division. Let me know what you guys thought of the fight last night. Favorite fight of last night, let me know. I'm curious to know, do you guys think that Ilia Topuria will stay undefeated for long? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. You guys are the best fan base in MMA. Tune in for tomorrow's video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.